This episode is sponsored by AMI. Hardware asset management is hard, and most companies are wasting time and effort on a bad solution. Asset Management International, or AMI, has been making software to simplify the HAM process for over 20 years. Their automated tools help companies keep tabs on their equipment, from storage to what's on your desk. Head over to AMITracks.com to request a demo today. This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com. This episode is sponsored by AMI. Hardware asset management is hard, and most companies are wasting time and effort on a bad solution. Asset Management International, or AMI, has been making software to simplify the HAM process for over 20 years. Their automated tools help companies keep tabs on their equipment, from storage to what's on your desk. Head over to AMITracks.com to request a demo today.
The problem we were solving at Wayfair was around deploying 600 or 700 times a day to production. And if you think about all the public company requirements that wrap around that, it's pretty crazy, right? You got to do a ton of audits, you got to have paper trails, you got to make sure your SOX compliance and your PCI compliance. There's all these requirements that are enforced just by proxy of being a public company and then by proxy of being over $1 billion. We solved those problems using platforms like ServiceNow and some custom code. But when I went to talk about them at conferences, very quickly realized a lot of public companies, especially in the banking sector, had the same exact problems. They're not able to adopt true DevOps methodologies or practices or whatever buzzword you want to use just because of all the regulatory boundaries. My name is Tameem Hourani. I'm the founder and SE at RevDev.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing at the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
It took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
The company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve. I was proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it. Not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story. I'm your host, Noah Lappard, and today how Tameem Hourani is helping you move fast in the cloud by enabling you to deploy Datadog and ServiceNow fast. This episode is sponsored by Speakeasy. Grow your API user adoption and improve engineering velocity with friction-free integration experiences. With Speakeasy's platform, you can now automatically generate SDKs in 10 languages and Terraform providers in minutes. Visit speakeasy.com/codestory and generate your first SDK for free. This message is sponsored by QA Wolf. QA Wolf gets engineering teams to 80% automated end-to-end test coverage and helps them ship 5 times faster by reducing QA cycles from hours to minutes. With over 100 5-star reviews on G2 and customer testimonials from SalesLoft, Drata, and AutoTrader, you're in good hands. Join the Wolfpack at QAWolf.com. Tameem Hourani was born in the Middle East on a small island. He came to the States, Boston specifically, for school in 2006. He planned on 4 years of engineering, which turned into 19 years of life. He became a citizen of the U.S. during COVID and spent many years of his career at Wayfair, which he thoroughly enjoyed. But outside of tech, he is a new father and spends a lot of time with his newborn. He loves being in the ocean, scuba diving, kite surfing, and alongside that, collecting vintage watches. In the past, Tameem had been burned by consulting firms. He saw a gap in the industry, and when he left his prior role at Wayfair, he wanted to become a trusted, transparent technology partner, the one that he had longed for in his previous roles. This is the creation story of RapDev.
So we're more of a services company. I hesitate to use consulting because we do not want to be consultants. We're very engineering heavy. Started because I've been burned multiple times by consulting firms. And I think there's a very big argument in the tech space of whether you do or don't use consultants or whether they add value or not. And I've been burned by that several times in my career. What we essentially do is we try to be an extension, a very engineering heavy extension of our customers' teams, focused specifically on ServiceNow and Datadog. What we do is we help customers deploy the platforms. We help build products on top of the platforms. So we've got about 40 plus plugins for Datadog that help customers expand the usage of Datadog. And then on the ServiceNow side, we really try to bring an engineering first approach to the way customers use ServiceNow. It's a very business heavy platform, very kind of process consulting, spend 6 months putting PowerPoints together before you get to use it. That really is not what we're trying to go after. We're very time to value, get the customers up and running, and really partner with them long-term on the engineering front. Consulting is a hard industry to be valuable at, right? Because a lot of consultants do it because it's very fast cash. Like you're charging for time, and there's really not a lot of value in charging for time unless you're providing something very specific. As a leader in the tech space in the past, we've had to deal with that. We've hired companies that have gone halfway through a project and said, hey, you're out of time. You got to buy more time, or we're over budget, or you got to sign a change order, or you're done with the project. They think they're done, and you're like, wait, like half the stuff we agreed on is missing. It's really a bad experience. What we took on to do is the exact opposite, right? I tell my team, we got to do right by our customers always. And if we miss-scoped a project, that's on us. That's not on the customer. If we're out of hours, we should have done a better job managing a project. That's really helped us grow very quickly in our space. And it's helped us differentiate from a lot of the competitors or other consulting firms that it's just low level, I don't even want to say engineering work, it's just low level development, really. And there's a big differentiator there in what the customer's getting from a value perspective. I mean, with the whole like Gen AI craze and all that stuff that's going on now, I really think some of those low level outsourcing consultant offshore companies are going to be the first to go. It's just such commoditized services, right? And you really got to differentiate yourself. And that's what I found was a big gap in the industry. When I left Wayfair, I was very transparent. I said, guys, I'm going to set off to try to do this thing that we really struggled to get right at Wayfair because we've been burned by partners. I just want to be a transparent engineering-led partner team. They were very supportive. They gave me 6 months. They let me vest. They were one of our first customers, which is pretty sick. It's generally just poor experiences as a customer and having to deal with that is where it all started.
I appreciate you clarifying that around product versus services. I also know that you've probably built some technology to help you move into this space a bit, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So, but tell me about what you would consider the MVP for RapDev, right? Okay, so it's a services organization, right? You're providing services, but there's still like kind of that first version that you stepped out and did. Tell me about that version and what sort of tools or methods or thought processes were you using to bring it to life?
What really drove us to get going, what really pushed me to leave a safe job, a great job, actually, that I was learning a ton at. Doing a lot of talks at conferences, the problem we were solving at Wayfair was around deploying 600 or 700 times a day to production. And if you think about all the public company requirements that wrap around that, it's pretty crazy, right? You got to do a ton of audits, you have a ton of paper trails, you got to make sure your SOX compliance and your PCI compliance. There's all these requirements that are enforced just by proxy of being a public company and then by proxy of being over $1 billion. We solved those problems using platforms like ServiceNow and some custom code. But when I went to talk about them at conferences, very quickly realized a lot of public companies, especially in the banking sector, had the same exact problems. They're not able to do true CI/CD. They're not able to adopt true DevOps methodologies or practices or whatever buzzword you want to use just because of all the regulatory boundaries they've been applied to. So the first thing that really worked for us was helping those customers accelerate their audit requirements. We were using ServiceNow to automate any of their QA testing, validation, cross-checking, 4 eyes in the finance industry. You can almost call it a product, but that solution slowly became applicable to the pharma and insurance industries because they're also super highly regulated. So you start to see this pattern of we can help highly regulated customers deploy code faster using ServiceNow. ServiceNow just becomes an enabler. But the solution is that, right? And then you can almost argue that's the value. I hesitate to say consulting because consultants, a lot of times it's like, hey, I need you to do these 17 things. Let me know when you're done. We're the exact opposite of that. We're coming with a solution. We're coming with what we believe adds value, and we're helping the customer accomplish that. And that I would argue was our first MVP or our first iteration of the value we're providing to customers. And from there, it just started to snowball.
This message is sponsored by SnapTrade. Link in user brokerage accounts and build world-class investing experiences with SnapTrade's unified brokerage API. With over $12 billion in connected assets and over 300,000 connected accounts, SnapTrade's API quality and developer experience are second to none. SnapTrade is SOC 2 certified and uses industry-leading security practices. Developers can use the company's official client SDKs to build investing experiences in minutes without the limitations of traditional aggregators. Get started for free today by visiting snaptrade.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by AMI. Have you ever wondered why your work laptop has a little barcode sticker on it? Who put it there, and does anyone care if you peel it off? Believe it or not, that little sticker is part of a massively important business of what IT folks call hardware asset management, or HAM for short. Most companies spend thousands of dollars on equipment for employees, but here's the kicker. Most also track this stuff by hand. That's right, another spreadsheet monster hiding in the shadows, taking up your team's time. So how do you fix it? I'm glad you asked. Meet AMI. AMI, or Asset Management International, has been making software to simplify the HAM process for over 20 years. Their automated tools help companies keep tabs on their equipment, from storage to what's on your desk. Their tech generates detailed reports and audits to ensure proper tracking, usage, and recycling of hardware equipment, which means gone are the days of lengthy inventories and misplaced equipment. Want to reduce your daily IT headaches? Head over to AMITracks.com. That's AMITRACKS.com to request a demo today. This episode is sponsored by Speakeasy. Whether you're growing the user adoption of your public API or streamlining internal development, SDKs can turn the chore of API integration into effortless implementation. Unburden your API users from guessing their way around your API while keeping your team focused on your product. Shorten the time to live integration and provide a delightful experience for your customers. With Speakeasy's platform, you can now automatically generate up-to-date, robust, idiomatic SDKs in 10 languages and Terraform providers in just a matter of minutes. SDKs are feature-rich with type safety, auto retries, and pagination. Everything you need to give your API the developer experience it deserves. Deliver a premium API experience without the premium price tag. Visit speakeasy.com/codestory to get started and generate your first SDK for free. Tell me about that snowball. Tell me about how it changed and how you matured it. And I'm curious about, if there was any sort of quote-unquote roadmap for how you shaped RapDev and how you decided what was the next most important thing to build or to address or to shape.
I think it's impossible to start a business with a multi-year roadmap and really think you're going to stick to it. And I'm probably not the first one to say this on this podcast or the last. If I showed you what I had in mind after like 6 months and where we are today, it's completely unrelated. But that said, what we generally started to lean towards is, okay, we've solved this kind of audit compliance requirement for our customers. What else is a gap that our customers are running into from a ServiceNow/Datadog perspective? Two themes emerged. On the Datadog front, Datadog as a company was really focused on being the leader in progressive cloud-native observability. But when you get to these highly regulated companies, such as banks, that are using Datadog that we were already working with, they have some pretty legacy tech, right? They're looking at all this really old stuff that Datadog didn't really care for, but our customers needed to make sure that they could monitor and they could move over to Datadog. So that was the immediate next aha opportunity. What if we could bridge that gap? What if we could go into those customers that are using Datadog and say, hey, we can build a product for Datadog that'll allow you to monitor Solaris and HPX and all this legacy tech. And that slowly bled into IT tech versus cloud native. So think like monitoring Zoom calls or monitoring Microsoft Teams and making sure your broadcasts are good. That became a segue into the marketplace presence we have today with Datadog. I think I said earlier, we're probably north of 40 tools now, but that's a pretty nice revenue stream for us as a consulting firm, I'd say, like an engineering firm, services firm, where we're not really focused on building product, but as a proxy of building it for customers, we've got a nice little ARR that keeps coming through. So that was the Datadog side of it. On the ServiceNow side is, okay, now we fixed this highly regulated audit requirement. We can do very similar stuff with managing your inventory, managing your CIs, making sure you know how to track containers that are elastic, that are short-lived. The same audit requirements apply there, right? If something exists for a day or a month, from a regulatory perspective, you got to be able to track it, track costs, track all these other things. So that very naturally became a segue into other teams within those customers, cloud native teams, etc. Went from the audit team over to engineering and cloud, and now we're slowly starting to get to security.
I'm curious about team. How did you go about building your team, and what did you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
So we're a bootstrapped company, right? We never raised funding. We never had the luxury of going out and hiring whoever we wanted. So one of the most important things, and still is today, is in one of our OKRs, one of our objectives for the year, is staying frugal. We had to be very careful who we hired and who we brought on board. And I'd say first 10 to 15, maybe even 15 engineers or 15 people wrapped up were engineers. And in our business, if you're an engineer, you're revenue generating directly to the top line. So we're very careful not to hire any roles we didn't need. So I'd say until we were like 30 or 35 people, I did a lot of the QuickBooks and I did a lot of the HubSpot. I want to call it marketing, right? We just had like HubSpot campaigns. Now we have Tony who runs a lot for us. I did recruiting, right? I would DM people on LinkedIn. I still do sometimes to try to bring good people on board, but we had to be very frugal. And I think by proxy of doing that, we ended up being very disciplined in our interview process. We had very strong engineers and PMs join us early days. Like I think actually all of the first 10 engineers are still with us today. We had a very strong team that could really challenge each other and lean on each other. And that created a really good foundation for what we have today. And we're very lucky. I don't think we would be where we are today if we didn't have that rock solid foundational team of engineers. But it's played a very big role in what has turned into a 100-person company today. We didn't go out and hire a bunch of leaders, right? We were very flat. We actually had no managers until we hit that 30-person mark. It was just a bunch of engineers doing good work. We just had to keep it that way to survive.
This message is sponsored by QA Wolf. If slow QA processes bottleneck your software engineering team and you're releasing slower because of it, you need a solution. You need QA Wolf. QA Wolf gets engineering teams to 80% automated end-to-end test coverage and helps them ship 5 times faster by reducing QA cycles from hours to minutes. With over 100 5-star reviews on G2 and customer testimonials from SalesLoft, Drata, AutoTrader, and many more, you're in good hands. Ready to ship faster with fewer bugs? Join the Wolfpack at QAWolf.com to see if they can help you squash the QA bottleneck. This message is sponsored by SnapTrade. Link in-user brokerage accounts and build world-class investing experiences with SnapTrade's unified brokerage API. With over $12 billion in connected assets and over 300,000 connected accounts, SnapTrade's API quality and developer experience are second to none. SnapTrade is SOC 2 certified and uses industry-leading security practices. Developers can use the company's official client SDKs to build investing experiences in minutes without the limitations of traditional aggregators. Get started for free today by visiting snaptrade.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory. I'm curious about, where scalability comes into play, right? You've got people, right? And that's a hard thing to scale, but I hear you saying you're building some solutions as well that probably make things faster. Probably some scalability thoughts there. It's not like building a product where you're just throwing AWS spend at it. So tell me about that.
Are you familiar with Sequoia's rule of 3s and 10s? I don't know if you've come across that.
No, I haven't.
It's just this, like, your business fundamentally changes when you hit these intervals, right? So you're 3 people, you're 10 people, you're 30 people, you're 100 people, and then the next break becomes 300 and 1,000 and so on. A lot of companies, or a lot of people talk about scaling based on revenue, right? They'll be like, hey, you're at 25 million, you're at 50, you're at 100. And yeah, of course, the business changes. But if you look at it from people's perspective, we've almost been like spot on with those breaks. It's right when we hit those intervals, the business just starts to fundamentally change. You need different roles. You need different tools. You need different automation. We've been very cognizant to try to lean on tech to scale out versus people. I don't think, to your point, people are very scalable. We try to do a lot with the technology we have. And we've got obviously a great bench of engineers. We've automated most of our business processes through tech. So we don't do a lot of manual invoicing. We don't do manual closing of books. We don't do manual recruiting. It's very automated. We've had to do that to be able to maintain the scalability without going out and raising funding. From a revenue or top line, you start to see patterns in what customers look for, and that generally becomes consistent over time. You come into these problems you're trying to solve where you might be able to reuse some of your code from prior engagements or pull snippets from GitHub or ServiceNow instances, etc. There's a lot of reusability in being very niche, being very specific in the solutions we're providing. One may argue, hey, customers don't like that, but the truth is, because we're not a dev shop, we're not just writing code for customers, we're solving problems. The reality is you end up solving the problem faster and solving the problem better for the customer, and you're still providing the same value. You're able to do it in a much better way, and customers value that. They appreciate the fact that you don't need 6 to 9 months to launch something or to do a big bang go live or any of that stuff. We try to avoid that. It's, hey, what's ready to go to production? Get it in production, start using it. You can generally find a good subset of reusable code that's applicable, and that helps you scale. You don't have to rewrite everything from scratch. And we're not even going to get into the whole Gen AI kind of conversation because I think that's a different talk track. But once you've gotten really good at something, the chances are you're going to be a lot more efficient at getting it set up for customers. So that's where we found ourselves now.
As you step out on the balcony, look across all that you've built thus far with RapDev, what are you most proud of?
So I'm not going to be stepping out on a balcony in Boston in January. It's a very hard question to answer. You go through these milestones of starting a business. I think there's always these really cool milestones you hit. Yeah, like we just did this. And I remember one of the first milestones was we closed a deal that I wasn't involved in. And I was like, holy shit, like we got a team that can go out and start selling now. Our first $1 million deal was a big deal. And I think that year we did 7 of them, which was like, wow, again, just hiring really good people that end up surprising you once they get on board and they get going. That's always super cool. There's always, I think this year we'll hit our $100 million milestone. Someone was doing that in Slack that day. I was like, wow, we're actually at that point. There's just so many things to be proud of. The team, really, it's hard to assemble such a great group of people that really enjoy working together and then just trusting them to do the right thing. And every day, like in Slack, on calls, wherever it is, you're just so blown away by the feedback from customers, by what the team's putting together. So it's hard to say there's one specific thing I'm proud of. If there's anything, honestly, it's probably that we've gotten this far without raising money. That took a lot of discipline. It took a lot of believing that we could do it. It's given us a ton of flexibility to do whatever the hell we want to do. The more people I talk to, the more it's not that common.
Okay, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
So very big sporting company that I may not name because they'll probably sue us. They came to us like mid-COVID, I don't remember the exact time, and they're like, hey guys, we need you to do this work for us. We're easy to work with. We have this, that, the other thing. We're really small. We're probably like 15, 20 people at the time. We have no legal team, right? So we'll review a contract and sure enough, we'll sign it. So we're really excited about working with them. Like every single person, I would say, 90% of the world's population knows this brand. We get the deal going. We start working with them. They want to migrate to Datadog. Once we're going, I realized probably halfway through it was a fixed fee contract. And for those who don't know what that means, it means you got to get everything done before you get paid. In our industry, there's two kind of general types of contracts. There's fixed fee and time materials. Time materials says you get paid for the time you spend on the project. Fixed fee says you don't get paid for anything until the work's done. They kept changing the goalposts and they kept changing the scope and they kept pulling in. And anytime we said, guys, you can't do that, they would threaten us with legal. Miserable project. And I can really understand why people shy away from getting into consulting because of this kind of thing. Like you can have a really tough customer that makes you not want to keep doing it. And it was like, I think it was like a 6-week project that I'm taking more than a year. And then at the end of it, we're like, guys, just take your money back. We're out. We don't want anything to do with this anymore. We don't want to charge you. We give up. Since then, we never did any more fixed fee without really scrutinizing the scope of the projects and things like that. If we didn't go through that, we would have never learned to not do fixed fee and could have been burned by something a lot worse. But I'll never forget that project. And if anyone on the team ever listens to this podcast, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We still make fun of it.
Let's move forward then. Tell me what the future looks like for RapDev, for what you offer, for what you're building to support what you offer, and for your team.
We're really just scratching the surface, right? If you think about how big we are in relation to the opportunity or to what's out there, we really haven't started doing much in Europe and in Asia. We really haven't started dabbling in like the security space, which Datadog's investing a ton of money into. We really haven't gotten into verticalization, which is where ServiceNow is making a big bet. There's so much that we have yet to really lean into, and there's a ton to capture too. Right now, we're just like we can't hire fast enough. There's a real world where I think we might have to look at acquiring companies or just acquiring talent in bulk, whatever the hell that means, right? Finding great engineers and bringing them on board faster. We need to capture the opportunity. There's no rush to grow faster, but I don't think we're going to get that opportunity as fast as I think we can without doing some sort of acquisition or mergers or something. Our industry is very fragmented, right? There's a lot of very small players, 20, 30 people that are really great, like great engineers that if we were able to join forces with, I think we could do a lot. That's really exciting. That's a very exciting thought. The TAM's not shrinking, right? The ServiceNow is a 10 billion company growing to 20. Datadog is 2.5, probably going to 5 or 6 in the next 2-3 years. I think 27. Our portion of that TAM is growing as well. It's almost like an exponential, and we need to do something about finding the right team and growing the team. When you think about the future, what excites me? It's definitely that. It's not, and a lot of people ask me this, are you going to get into other industries? Are you going to start doing SAP? Are you going to start doing Azure? Are you going to start doing AWS? No. I think that's when you start to get diluted. That's when you get distracted. There's still so much upside in the industries we're in that we get to capture, and I really do think that's what we're going to end up doing. It's just going to be a ton of M&A.
Okay, Tameem, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I always say I miss working for really good people. Like my boss at Wayfair was fantastic. The founders at Wayfair, oh my God, they're just brilliant humans and they're so impressive. That's a void, right? If you start a company or you decide to go off on your own, that's a void. You try to be the best person you can for your team and you try to make sure you continue to push and inspire them, but you need to lean on. I really did enjoy working for smart people. That was a really cool experience. And I get a lot of it from the people on the team with some really sharp engineers. And it's always awesome reading the stuff they post. But that is something I internalize, reflect on a lot. People I still lean on, there's a couple of folks that I'd say over the career, Sanjay Verma, someone I worked for at PTC a long time ago, he always used to tell me, dude, you're going to start a business. You come to America, it's the best place to start a business. And he was right. There's no better country in the world to start a business, as far as I'm concerned. He's a very mindful, very good anchor from a business perspective I can always go back to. You want to get super inspired first thing in the morning, go read something about Elon Musk. I think that guy's changing the world. I know he's changing the world. I'd love to work for him or one of his companies someday. 7 months ago, I would have never told you that my daughter forces me to get out of bed and go to work. I never thought I'd be saying this openly, but having another human that depends on you, there's nothing more motivating than that. You get up and you work and you hustle because you're doing it for this human that you know is waiting for you to come back and feed them a bottle of milk, right? Like, what's the big deal? So I'd say that's another factor without really being able to go home and talk to her yet.
Okay, Tameem, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing or is starting the next big engineering services firm. They're jazzed about it. You're sitting right next to them. They can't wait to tell you about it, show it off to you on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
A few years ago, I'd see people's success and I'd be like, what they're doing is not rocket science. Why have they earned the right to be so successful? Like, what they're doing is not really earth-shattering. And it'd almost be like this, almost like a jealousy. I'd be very jealous. And I think now I see people doing well, and I'm so happy for it. I think everyone should just take the time to try starting a business. Everyone in their career should try to start a business. And seeing successful businesses, bigger, smaller, younger, older, doesn't matter. It makes me really happy because there's so much to go around. There's so much opportunity to put a dent in any industry, whether it's tech, whether it's, I don't care what you get into. You open a car dealership and you sell boats. I don't care what it is. I met a guy this weekend at the boat show who quit his job and started these inflatables companies. Like he makes inflatable chairs and inflatable docks to hang off the back of your boat. And I was so happy for him. And I ended up buying a bunch of stuff. Those things make me so happy. Like people going out, taking a chance and doing well and being successful and being able to work for themselves. I tell my teams all the time, everyone on my team that wants to start a business should go out and start a business. Don't start a business that competes with us because that's not going to end well for you. But get out there and start a business. And I really hope it works. There's nothing more rewarding in the United States than being able to start your own business and just building your own career. With that said, if I do sit next to someone super successful on a plane that's just absolutely crushing it, I'd say don't let off the gas. Fast growth is exciting, fast growth is rewarding, but that means there's so much more behind it. And you got a team relying on you. You got a team of people that go home to their families every night and really need you to do your job well so they can continue doing their job well and you can continue to grow and be successful. And that's really important, and that's easy to lose track of. You get distracted, you can start going in different directions. Stay super, super focused and stay frugal. Those are really important things. And as long as you do those and you don't start trying to do a million things, I think anybody with the right tenacity, with the right drive can start a business. And it's just an awesome thing about this country.
Well, that's fantastic advice. Well, Tameem, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of RapDev.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me, Noah. Appreciate it.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ12 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
If you're a fan of Code Story and love hearing about the disruptive strategies and what it takes to truly create change in industries, then you will love hearing more about the business of entertainment in our podcast, Trapital. Every week, we dive deep in some of the biggest stories of what's happening today. We analyze the biggest deals that are happening in the music catalog space, how streaming and AI continue to evolve and shape music, and what continues to happen on the video landscape with social media platforms and more that are truly changing what it means to entertain audiences, fans, and how to truly make a difference in the space. Join Trapital host and founder Dan Runcie as he talks to the experts, analysts, operators, and investors that are pushing the industry forward. You can find Trapital anywhere that you listen to podcasts. That's TRAPITAL.